Hi there! Welcome back to another episode of the Help I'm Artist podcast. Today I'm very excited that I have special guest Marion de Jong here live with me, and we're going to talk everything art, and she'll share some of her valuable insights with us today. At the end, she has a very special surprise for you, for the listeners of the podcast. But first of all, I want to welcome you, Marion, to my podcast.
Hi, Sonja.
And I look forward to hearing your stories and all your secrets and all your special moments that you've had with art. We look forward to learning from you.
Yeah,
so welcome.
thanks. I'm looking forward to this
Marion.
also.
Can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself? Are you married? Do you have children? Where do you live?
Yes. Well, I live not too far away from you, Sonja. It's in a city called Amersfoort in the Netherlands. And I'm married to Renee.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I just took out my calculator and I found out we have been married for 37 years this year. And we have 3 children, and the youngest of which will get married very soon. And we have 2 grandchildren and 1 on the way.
So you're married, you have children, and you're a grandmother.
Yes, I am.
You're a working artist. When did you know that this is something you wanted to seriously pursue?
That was way back in the 80s. At that time, it was popular to pursue your gifts and talents. So I made sure to find out what it was. Yeah, I made my first steps to working with them.
And how you can follow your passions, but you could have done anything. Why was it that you chose art and being an artist? Did you have someone in your family, or was it something that was encouraged?
Yes, I did have someone in my family. My grandfather, he was a cartographer. He was just drawing maps from pictures, and he loved doing art also. He was also doing drawings, and I remember beautiful portraits he made with colored pencils. So he was actually one of the first to introduce me to real art materials.
Okay, so it started early on in your life. That showed you what it was and was an example for you.
Yes, and actually I now have this drawing box of my grandfather.
And extra special because that was a link to your own creative adventure.
Yeah.
What steps did you take to develop in becoming the working artist that you are now?
Yes, well, the first step for me was actually to stop thinking about it as a hobby, and also acknowledging that I'm not born for office work. You know, I was educated as a secretary, but I noticed that after a few years of being in a job, I started to feel real confined. I felt very much stuck. Of course, you do your artwork and as a hobby, but when I realized that was really my strength, I started to take painting lessons and art lessons and working on developing my creativity.
You said you realized that this was your strength. How do you realize that something is your strength?
Actually, I first realized that working in an office job was not my strength.
More like what you don't want to do.
Yeah, but also I also looked at what things do you like? What things are really in your toolbox, strong points and things you love to do. And I immediately knew the answer and felt very uncomfortable with it. That it was drawing and painting. I knew I had to fight also this stigma of not being able to earn money with it. How am I going to make money with this? I've done many things to earn money with it. One of the first was that I had a home group together with other ladies, some from my church, but also friends of a friend. And we were making like a wreath.
Wreath.
A wreath?
A wreath,
okay.
On the door.
Yes, and for Christmas, or with dried flowers or with shells. And we are making them, and then once a year we would sell everything we made.
So that was actually the beginning steps of being an entrepreneur and connecting with your creativity. Okay.
So we always made sure that when we sold stuff, we kept like the 10% behind to buy new materials, and the other 90% was going to some kind of a charity goal.
Yeah.
And that's how it went.
Yeah.
And when I stopped with that, then I started to be a demonstrator of hobby products in fairs and in shops. And I really loved it. And there I was, a housewife sitting at home with some small children. And then suddenly your life goes into the direction of working with art materials in an international fair, you know.
Speaking all different kinds of languages
Yeah,
and
yeah.
And teaching. I mean, that's something that you have to demonstrate. You have to
Yes,
explain
yes,
something very
yes,
logical for people. So
yes,
actually all your passions sort of came together
yes,
in a surprising way.
indeed.
Ah.
Yes, that's what happened.
Wow, so really a spark for your art career.
Because when I did
Products.
that, I realized I didn't know enough about how to work with art materials. So I decided to do a course, a 2-year course for being an assistant art teacher. And in this course, we worked with wood, metal, fabric, all different kinds of material groups. And we learned the basic techniques and how to work with it. The kids grew bigger, of course. Then came a time that I started to really pursue art classes. I wanted to do more painting. So I decided to go to the Gooise Academie, an art academy in the Netherlands. And there I studied for 5 years.
Yeah. So that was a good foundation for
Yeah.
your further art career.
Yeah.
So, but it cost you 5 years.
That cost me 5 years.
And money and commitment and homework.
Yes. But the problem was, you know, having this art material of art teachers education, 2 years, all the experience from the home group, then another 5 years of learning stuff there. I took more classes. I also took 3 years of watercolor classes, another 2 years of acrylic classes. I took portrait and modeling classes. You know, and when you count it all up, and you then still feel frustrated because for some kind of reason you're not satisfied with your painting. You know, and then you start thinking, what is it? It's not logical. There's missing, something is missing. And first I couldn't define what was actually missing. And it took me, I believe, 1 or 2 years to find out why I was frustrated.
Yeah, not satisfied with your
long
art.
time.
And
Yeah.
so there was a missing element in your art.
Yeah. And but the thing is, I noticed my fellow students had the same experience. You know, we were in an art class, we were having fun, yes, a nice setup. And, you know, we all started cheerfully because, yes, we're having an art class. And then at the end of the art class, many of us, most of us, if not all, were standing there, it didn't work out as I would have wanted it to work out. So all were like, most of the time, a little bit disappointed. And when you have that year after year, you get frustrated. There was a moment that my husband said, Marion, let's go on a short holiday. Let's go to Florence, Italy. And Florence is, of course, a beautiful city. And you can really find art on the streets, and there's lots of museums and palaces that are really stacked with the most beautiful art, of high quality art. And the art I saw there was so excellent. For those who've never been there, Florence is really one of the sources where you can really see beautiful, wonderful art. And the city is very old, and you can see art literally on each street corner, qualitative art. When I was there and walked the streets and saw all the beautiful art, I was really blown away by it. after 3 days, I had this experience that I couldn't speak anymore. Yes, and I felt, like tears coming up all the time. That was also a bit confusing, of course, not understanding quite how this can happen. And but when I saw this beautiful art, I was immediately convinced, okay, I can learn how to make this beautiful art. I can see here examples of people who have learned to make it. So there must be someone who can teach me how to do this. And that was really a true conviction for me. And suddenly I understood that it is teachable, but I wasn't taught. Nobody taught me this, despite of the fact that I had like maybe 9 or even 10 years of art classes. I had so many art classes, and they were all fun. I had a good time. I made some nice things, but it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't what I was looking for. And that's where the frustration came from. After this experience in Florence, I even got more frustrated because I knew I had been spending money for 9 or 10 years doing these art classes, and all that I've got from that time is that I was entertained instead of that I was taught how to use certain techniques or abilities. Then I was thinking about what to do about it, and I sat down actually at my kitchen table and I made a list of things that I could see that were missing in my education. And one of the things, for instance, was knowledge of anatomy. I knew that was missing. I did do an anatomy class, but it was also very shallow. And I knew I needed more because I saw beautiful horses and lions and all the Greek statues with all the muscles and everything was perfect. I don't know if you know the statue of David by Michelangelo. I sat down in complete, I was so amazed looking at this statue and thinking, wow, how was this done? How is this possible? The statue is like, I believe, 3 meters high or something. Huge. It's huge. And both my husband and I have been sitting there for at least half an hour.
Just transfixed in awe.
Totally flabbergasted about the excellence and the skill, and it was perfect. So I came up with this list of things that I was missing in my education, and then I started to look around. Through one of my friends, I met a Russian teacher, and she was running an art academy in Florence also, and we managed to visit her. She really convinced me about the need of certain knowledge and certain skills in order to make beautiful stuff. There started my journey to more education, and I found it with her in Florence. But of course, I am living in the Netherlands.
Yes, a little bit a distance between the Netherlands and Italy.
Yeah. You can go there once a year, but there's all kinds of costs connected to that. And I was looking for other ways. Yeah.
But that was a real pivotal point for you.
Oh, yes.
But it was a before and an after.
Oh, yes, definitely.
It's like your eyes opened.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
you realized that there were just key elements that you were missing in your art and your art education.
The more I was thinking about it, the more angry actually I got. Because I realized that I was entertained for 9 years instead of taught. I wasn't taught any skills, I was entertained. And that's a difference, when you're looking for serious education and to learn serious skills. And you notice you are kind of sent into the bushes with
With not much
no.
for survival.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a real time of coming to terms with it.
Yeah.
And then finding your new teachers, your new education.
But actually, then I started to do a lot of self-study and to look around for good books that were teaching the things that I wanted to know. There's a lot of self-study, and the path of self-study is very
long and windy and hilly, up and down. Yeah, it's a hard road.
You really need someone who helps you, who says to you, oh, you must do it so and so, and who shows it, and who tells you, who corrects, and who demonstrates.
Because you are a working artist.
Yes.
Can you describe in a few words how that what you found changed your art?
Oh, wow, that's a significant difference. The frustration was a bit with finding the shapes. I couldn't make shapes or forms the way I wanted them, the way I saw them in front of me. And nobody told me, hey, Marion, you should start drawing. No, because the teacher I had didn't do the drawing. Yes. So I started to focus more on drawing. And when I did that, realized I also needed help with that. I started to look around more and more. And then I found more resources and started to work with that. I think I've grown as an artist to do realistic art. And I also started to look for realistic artists to help me.
What do you enjoy most about being an artist?
Well, that's, this sense of freedom. And it's funny to say many people feel very free when they do abstract work. But I now feel free because I am able to make the shape that I want. So that gives me a lot more freedom, in fact, than when I was doing only the abstract stuff.
Without the frustration.
Without the frustration. Well, sometimes you are frustrated because things are difficult.
Yeah.
But I noticed that it gets easier and easier and easier.
Because you have the tools
to
be able to do what you really want to, or say what you really want to say.
Yes.
So that has given you a language,
it
art
does.
Language to express yourself.
Yes, it has. Yeah.
And what do you enjoy about being an artist, just personally? Is it an expression of your emotion, or is it something that you just like working with visuals?
For a while it was expression of emotions, but that's only a certain period of time. And then you start realizing, okay, I must also be able to design something, some image, some impression. And for that I need to sit down and think about it and try out some things. So from a spontaneous expression, it changes to deliberately designing. And I like both. Sometimes I like to, explode in expressive stuff. And sometimes I like to work very precisely and do the very realistic image. But what I like the most is when I have this inner impression in your inner being, this spiritual impression that you want to convey. And I really love doing that. I call it prophetic art because I am a Christian, and I believe that God shows me something in my inner being. And it's a spiritual thing originating from Christianity. Yeah, I love to do that. I love to see this image and then do something about it. Work it out as an image or a painting or an expression.
It's more than just a painting.
Yes, of course.
It's something that really is something that connects you with your spirituality.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And when you make your art, you have something in mind or somebody in mind, or why do you make your art?
No, most of the time I am working from this inspiration, and another part of the time I am making work to elevate my technical abilities or to make examples for my online school. So that's like 3 different ways of
three
doing
different
art.
reasons to do it as well.
Yeah.
And what you least enjoy about being an artist?
Yeah, what I least enjoy. Well, I've been making art now for some years. You get a lot of stuff. You also come to the realization, hey, I actually need a nice building next to my house.
A warehouse.
Yeah, a warehouse. Well, but also like a nice studio space, that's spacey and where you have a cleaning woman to keep it clean.
Because you have your studio now in your home city.
Yes, it is.
So it's really close to home.
Yes, it is very close to home.
Like down the stairs. Yes, so you have to move around your space and to really get organized. Yeah. So that's a downside.
Yeah.
So need a studio space.
That's a downside. Yeah.
You really talked about your inspiration, what drives you to make art, that it's a spiritual experience for you, that it's something that you...
But that's only part of it, I also believe that each artist has a calling or a destiny to raise his or her voice, whether it be in sound or in imagery, and to release some kind of message to the world. And I believe that it's always something that conveys beauty, hope, righteousness, those kind of beautiful values. And of course, that's because of my Christian background. And but I believe that each Christian artist really has a calling to convey this message of hope to the world. And it can be that your voice is reaching into the city where you live. Could be that your voice is reaching a bit further. But still, I believe the voice of the artist needs to be heard or seen. And I believe that this is a deeper calling that each artist has, and we need to come to this realization. And that's, I believe, also a very important calling, an important destiny for each artist. So I believe we should take our art seriously. We should take our abilities or maybe disabilities in the arts seriously, and we need to do something about it. I believe that there's a lot of art in the world at the moment which is conveying a negative energy, a negative message, a negative image. And I believe that Christian artists really need to raise their voices, their visual voices maybe, and let this positive message go into the world.
Besides being an artist, you're also an amazing teacher. If I say so myself, I've seen you teach. You're very passionate about teaching, about sharing your knowledge. Can you share a little bit of why teaching? What do you enjoy about teaching?
Well, that's something that's in your DNA. I started to teach courses prophetic art, and literally each workshop there was someone who came to me or said to me, Marion, you are a real teacher. And from this, I knew, okay, teaching is in the blood. It's in the DNA. They all find me a typical teacher. I love to bring others to the next level. I love to tell them, hey, when you do this like this or like a little bit like that, do you see this? And then you can bring your art to a higher level. And I really love this.
So actually taking people to the next step, taking people to a higher level.
I believe that artists also have this destiny to bring joy, and beauty all around us. We take our surroundings so for granted. But you're wearing beautiful glasses at the moment, Sonja.
Thank you.
And, it was made and designed by an artist. And we tend to forget that. But we are all the time talking about what we will wear, how we will look, what car we will drive, what kind of clothes we will buy, how we will have our hair cut. Those are all things made or done by creative people. And I call them artists. And there's different disciplines of artists, of course, designers, but you know, a
Painters,
hairdresser
composers.
is also an artist.
Mm.
They need to make another person look good.
You have an online school and where you teach the foundations of art.
Yes.
And it's called the Dutch Art Academy. We'll leave the context in the podcast notes so people can look you up. Why the Dutch Art Academy? And what is Dutch art?
Everyone is looking for a reason of being, and I also already mentioned a few, but I am an artist, I am a teacher, and I live in the Netherlands. So, Dutch Art Academy.
Like a simple sum.
Very simple.
1 + 1 + 1 is Dutch Art Academy.
Yeah. It sounds very simple, but it's like going back to your core. You know, I live in the Netherlands. I am Dutch, and the Netherlands have a large heritage in the arts. And especially when I found out, you know, that arts is one of my gifts and talents, and that I need to do something with that, I also started to look for what Dutch artists did. Let's be honest, each academy in the world is learning from our renowned artists. They're all talking about Rembrandt, they're all talking about Van Gogh or Vermeer. You know, even more people flood the museums because they want to see these amazing paintings of the Golden Age. Dutch art mostly are realistic paintings done in oil paint, and the last 1.5 to 2 centuries, art has kind of gone into a quickening mode. Actually, when photography was discovered, being of an artist was not necessary anymore, because artists or painters had the function of what a modern photographer has now, making a portrait of somebody. So when photography was invented, occupation of being a painter was gone. You know, it was
didn't have a
unnecessary.
function anymore.
Didn't have a function anymore. So actually painters had to reinvent their destiny, their reason for being. And what happened then is that they started to experiment with paint, with shape, with form, they discussed everything, and they developed painting methods in a different way than they used to do it. I can mention Picasso, for instance, who started to distort human figures. There's lots to be said about modern art, but I believe that art in general developed in a direction that is not very positive. Also, each cycle of doing art, so the art styles, the period of an art style was getting shorter and shorter and shorter.
Because it was evolving so fast.
It was evolving so fast. It evolved into being more creative than the previous style period. And we have now evolved until the part that, you know, art is being made to last only one day. And that conveys to me a very negative message. First of all, the artist isn't worth anything because he makes something
like instant soup. Like
makes something that lasts only one day. Second, the viewer is not honored because he can only watch it one day. And third, they destroy the art in a very quick way or a very quick manner, or it is done in a technique that lasts only one day. So the art itself is not worth anything also. So to me, this all conveys the message of negativity, no self-image, no value of the viewer, no value of the art. It's all negative and it ends with nothing. So I wonder what heritage will build this for like our children or grandchildren. What do they have to look at. We are now enjoying the Rembrandts and the Michelangelos and the Da Vincis. But what will our children look at? Maybe also these old masters, but
there'll be nothing in between the masters and now.
I find it concerning, and also I believe that that the art needs to be transformed. We need to bring back value for the artist, value for the piece of art, value for the viewer, value for the future. So all kinds of values connected with it.
And have you got some insight how we can do that?
1 and 1 is 2. So that is a given value. And I believe also that realism is a given value. And I believe that artistic knowledge, that is a given value. And also the things that we are conveying in our messages to the world, that's also a given value. We are all running to the museum for a good Rembrandt and for a good still life, realistic. We are all going to the museum for the old-fashioned, good-made paintings. And I believe that this fast food art, it's nothing. I believe it's evaporating. One of the things we need to do is to go back to the values, to go back to the knowledge, go back to the wisdom, start developing it again, start developing ourselves again to be able to work with it and make beautiful art connected to positive, beautiful wisdom. We are not only confined to realistic art, because art is wider than that, and I believe you cannot turn back time. But I believe that modern techniques that were invented in between Rembrandt and now, the modern times, that we can use it also. What we've done now, like 150 years ago, is we threw everything of value out of the window, and we kind of didn't want to know anything anymore about anatomy, about how to draw, or all the foundational stuff that concerns art. We actually threw it out, and I believe we threw out valuable stuff. Some people say about good artists, oh, they're so talented. They're so talented, they're so gifted. But you know, that's actually not true. They have some skills, they've learned some skills, and they're just working with them. And I believe some of the skills can be learned by anyone if you put time and effort in it.
But that's actually so empowering.
It is.
It's not reliant only on talent, that you actually can learn a system or learn the basics, which will make you a good artist. You've got this online school. Can you describe your ideal student? Who would feel at home in your online school?
My ideal online student would be, willing to learn something, would be looking for realistic art, would be willing to spend time and effort to look into this, would be speaking English.
Because your course is in English.
Yes, the school is in English. And I do have a second school that is in German. And actually the content is the same. But you must also feel this urge to want to grow to a better level. They would spend with one lesson would be about 2 to 3 hours. They can watch the movie, read the explanation, they can print downloadable exercises. There is also an art coaching course, especially for those who want to have feedback on their homework. You don't see your own mistakes very well. But when there is somebody who tells you, hey, maybe you should do it this and this way, and then you would have double the value of the course.
Do you have an example of a student of something that they've learned in your course that's been life-changing or changed their art?
Yes, there's people who say through the course of Foundations of Drawing, where we do a lot of exercises. They are so intensive and are so educating to their eyes, actually to their brains, that they really start seeing things that I didn't notice before. And that's a very strange experience, you know, even with the simplest drawings. And then they have to correct them themselves. And they notice that they are way off. They notice, hey, now I'm seeing better. Now, and they are, you know, in the first place, they are very surprised about their own mistakes.
Yeah.
Today, I got this really exciting email from a German student of mine. I told her I am doing a Rembrandt course at the moment. I'm building it. And it's called The Remake of a Rembrandt. It's portrait of the Reverend Uitenboogaard, which was made by Rembrandt in 1670 something. And I have been redoing this particular painting, writing my course about this and explaining how to do this.
Yeah.
And this student, she got so excited. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Rembrandt. Oh, yes, I will definitely want to do that. And that will be available very soon. In fact, I have a bonus for the listeners.
Oh, we love bonuses. Tell us.
Tell you. Well, you know, Sonja will be so kind to post a link, and it gives you a bonus of 15% on the course amount.
Okay, so they can get a discount for the Rembrandt, remake of Rembrandt.
A remake of a Rembrandt,
Wow.
and that's how to make a Rembrandt in 10 steps. And it will give them timeless principles, because you can also do these principles with other portraits, even your own portraits, your self-portrait.
Yeah,
you know,
the
it's
principles are universal.
It's a principle, yes, a universal principle.
Yeah. And then we'll put a photo of your remake of Rembrandt on the in the podcast notes.
Of course.
So people can have a look.
Yes.
And there'll be more photos also of some of your work.
Yes.
And of course a link to your website. And in closing, I was just wondering, if you were to give yourself, when you were 20 years old, so that's a few years ago, would give yourself some advice, what would you advise the 20-year-old version of Marion? What would you tell her?
Well, I'm glad I did my secretary education.
Okay.
But I would have studied art more seriously during the years that I had to let go of it, because I had small children. But I would have taken some more effort to find a way to do serious art classes at that time. Now I lost time, but you know, this is how it
went. It is. Yeah. And then, are there any books that you can recommend the readers?
Oh, yes.
As I know you love reading. So
I do.
Studying.
So I really had to think what to choose. What I love and what I think is a must-have, it's an anatomy book written by Gottfried Bammes.
Okay.
He is a German. The book is in English, and it's called The Complete Guide to Anatomy for Artists and Illustrators.
Okay.
And you can see the thickness of this book.
Yeah. It's not a doorstop, it's there to be used.
You don't have to read it in one go.
No.
But it's very valuable. It gives you lots and lots of information.
I'll put it in the notes of the podcast.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So people can look it up. And quotes, I love quotes. Little nuggets of truth and wisdom and information. And I don't know if you have a quote or a life verse that
I have a few.
Okay.
One quote: when I feel things are difficult, I say to myself, never give up. And I repeat it, Marion, never give up. And there's another one: good art is built on a good foundation. And this quote is born out of the experience that we can take art classes for years, but we can still end up with holes in our art foundations. We had teachings and we had a nice time, but we were taught the wrong things. And with Dutch Art Academy, I hope to fill those holes.
Oh, what a special story. Thank you for sharing
your
experience and how you went from that frustration actually to being empowered, because you've got the tools in your tool belt which you can use to make your art.
Yes.
So you've learned the language of art, and you've now got passionately teaching other people about it. Just tell us where people can find you. What's the best place to follow you or to connect with you?
Well, people can connect with me through Facebook. They can either look for my name, Marion de Jong, or Dutch Art Academy. And they can find me on Instagram as Dutch Art Academy. They can find me on the internet as Dutch Art Academy.
Okay, and that's just
NL.
Okay, dutchartacademy.nl.
Or mariondejong.nl.
NL. Okay, well, we'll put those in the notes too, and then people can link to your website. Thank you so much for your time, Marion. What an inspiring interview. Thanks again, Marion. Besides the generous discount of her brand new course, The Remake of a Rembrandt, Marion has written a special free resource for you to download. 10 mistakes an artist cannot afford to make. This is a very practical and insightful resource that will help you take your art to the next level. To access this resource, go to www.soniasmallhere.com/Marion. If you want to get Marion's contact details or see images of her work, or access the discount link of her Rembrandt course, and get details about the book that we mentioned, head over to my website. Thanks so much for listening, and see you again next time. Bye for now.